This session is going to be about MapLibre. I called it Captain Hook, Mastering MapLibre's Hooks. My name is Harel. I love open source. I've asked the forum here to write me as an open source advocate. I think that every company I work in, I try to push towards open source. Sometimes it's harder, sometimes it's easier. At Day, I work for Dell Technologies as a group leader, mostly managing people, less of writing code. And at night, I do Israel hiking map, which is, as you can see here, two of my hobbies, which is hiking and open source. I've created a project called Israel hiking map, which is a hiking app for Israel, pretty popular there. And through that, I got to writing using Mapbox basically, and later on using MapLibre after the fork. And I got to maintaining it, which is my current role at MapLibre. A bit of an history about MapLibre specific to JLJS. I'm not going to talk about MapLibre native here. So at December 2020, there was the fork, the famous fork from Mapbox. And at this point in time, I would like to, I don't think there's someone here from Mapbox, but if there was, then, or listening to my recording later, then thanks for all the code they contributed. I think they did an amazing work, honestly. And I think it's one of those phrases on standing on the shoulders of giants, right? So we're continuing with the open source and free kind of tier of Mapbox with MapLibre. In 2021, in March 2021, the first NPM packages and docs were released. In September 2021, there was the migration from JavaScript and Flow to TypeScript. I did most of the work there. I heard yesterday that this has become a legend, so that's nice to be part of a legend. In March 2022, Toursprung contribute the terrain implementation to MapLibre. In June 2023, we changed all the docs to use MK docs, which I think was a big change, allowing search, allowing static pages. It was a big effort, but I think it leveled up the documentation nicely. And hopefully at the end of this year, we'll get the globe view in MapLibre. I prepared that slide before I got to this conference, and I was going to say that this is going to be a very technical session, and don't panic. But I think it's going to be less technical than a lot of stuff that we've seen today and yesterday. So I kept it for, I don't know, for laughs, I guess. This is going to be the agenda for today. We're going to talk about hooks. I've sorted them out from history perspective, stuff that existed in Mapbox, from complexity perspective as well, from simple to complex, and from stuff that happened after the fork. So let's get to it. The first question is why hooks, right? Why am I talking about it, and why are you or why should you be interested in this? Hooks basically allows you to add code to MapLibre without changing internals, without knowing its internals, and it's a very, very good way to collaborate with the community and have the community do amazing stuff. But this lecture allows you to basically know these hooks better. So that's kind of the reasoning for hooks. Plugins. Plugins are probably the simpler kind of hooks. They allows you to write code, publish in a repo, probably an NPM package, and then you can use that with MapLibre and get all kinds of functionality. This plugin, for example, is the contour plugin, which allows you to draw contours on the client side when using MapLibre without pre-calculating them. This, for example, is the inspect plugin, which allows you to add an inspect control and see which type of data you have in your tiles. Last one that I'm going to present here, but there's like 100 or more plugins, is the geolocation plugin, which is a control that lets you search stuff. And I've searched for London, for example, in this screenshot. These were the plugins. There are a lot of them. There's a good list, and we try to keep it maintained, but it's hard because obviously these are repositories that we don't really maintain, and usually are maintained by people, and sometimes they get archived or just neglected. But we try to keep it up to date. Ad control is the next hook. A very simple one. As you can see in the right upper corner, there's a hello world control that I added. And it allows you to add controls to the map in 4 corners of the map, the top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. And that I'm not in the camera. Move a bit. Can we move it? Possible?
Yeah.
All right.
You can keep going. I'll move it.
All right. So they stack from basically towards the center of the map. So if you have a control at this part and you add another control, say hello world 2, it would be just beneath that. If you have a control on the bottom right and you add another control, it would be above it. So these are the add control. The code for it is pretty simple. You inherit an interface, but it's JavaScript, so you don't have to inherit anything. You have an on add, which receives a map, which is the map from MapLibre, and you need to return an HTML element, which would be rendered at the position you define. There's an on remove, so when the map is removed or the control is removed, you get that callback. And to add this to the map, you simply call map.addControl with the new instance of the control. Feel free to pause me at any time if you have any questions. Right. Transform request is the next hook. It basically allows you to add a method when MapLibre wants to call the outside world, the network, basically. And you can add all kinds of stuff there to the object, the request object, like headers, credentials, tokens, and stuff like that. And I'll give an example because it's pretty simple. You add it to the map by giving it a function, calling map.setTransformRequest, and you get a URL and a resource type. And in this example, you change HTTP to HTTPS, and you add some custom headers, and you add credentials to the request. And this is happening for every request that comes out from MapLibre would go through that transform. The last historic hook is basically the custom layer. This existed before the Mapbox fork, the MapLibre fork. And custom layer interface is a way to communicate with the graphic layer context. And it's probably the most complicated one. And we've recently worked with you guys to improve it so that the XL can better interact with it. The interface or the implementation is very simple. You get an on-add method, which happens when you add this layer. And you have a render, which is called every time the camera moves. And in this layer, you get the GL context, which allows you to interact with the shaders, and the metric saying which scene we're looking at. And using those, you can define or decide how to render things like this 3D antenna. Adding it is basically like adding any other layer in MapLibre, which is map.addLayer, but in this case, instead of adding a layer that is defined by a JSON, like other layers in the style spec, you add a custom layer with this interface. Next one up, and probably my favorite, is the add protocol. Add protocol, I think, somewhat tells my origin story in relation to MapLibre. as I said previously, I have an hiking app, and I wanted to present in this hiking app offline tiles. And there wasn't really a solution for this, mainly because MapLibre and Mapbox are web-based, and the native part is what usually runs on devices that don't have internet connection, and you have stuff that you need offline tiles. And usually when you're on a website, you don't really care about offline stuff. There is an interesting community called Offline First, which I joined as part of this effort. And it's an interesting community I'm not going to talk about here, but you should look it up. But in any case, I needed a way to load offline tiles on the web browser. So I got to this GitHub issue called custom sources, and I tried to read through it, and it was extremely technical, and I couldn't understand anything. And I thought that couldn't be that complicated. All I want is just to load tiles from custom source and put it into MapLibre. And I had a reference for OpenLayers that had a similar function where you just call, this is the callback I need to load tiles, and anything else afterwards is pretty easy. So I decided to write this kind of code. And this was around the time of MapLibre fork. And I opened a PR in MapLibre with this addition. It was around 10 lines of code, all in all, to add protocol. And after a review and everything, about a half a year later, it got merged. And this is where I started contributing more to MapLibre. So I guess this is somewhat of my origin story. But I have talked about add protocol, but I didn't really explain what it is. So what add protocol really is, so you're telling MapLibre to add a protocol like HTTP, but not. You do something like custom : / or PM tiles or MV tiles or these kind of protocols. And every time MapLibre wants to get stuff, what it thinks from the web, it calls your method. And instead of going to the web, you can return a byte array. This byte array goes back to MapLibre and gets rendered. It can be a byte array of obviously JSON. It can be a byte array of MVT, or it can be a byte array of raster tile. But in this method, which has all the context that you would imagine when you're developing the software, allows you to basically do anything you want. You can go and call to workers. You can do it in memory. You can do anything you want. And I guess that's the first kind of solution that I'm suggesting to people when they write on our Slack, like, what am I supposed to do with this kind of problem? And I say, well, try first add protocol. You can probably solve it there. It might not be performant, but it will work. And then you can see how you can improve performance. So it's a very, very good or strong hook. Yeah, that's around it. This is an example of using these hooks with H3 tiles, where you can basically take the square data that MapLibre is expecting, find out the hexagons that are part of this data, fetch those, return those to MapLibre, and then it just renders it. In terms of code, then it's a simple method. It gets the, you define the protocol that you want to override, and then you have an async function that you can basically do. In this example, we're fetching something from somewhere, getting the buffer from it, do some processing on this buffer, and then returning this buffer back to MapLibre. In the case of an error, you throw. That's basically it. It's pretty simple, and the custom needs to appear in the style as part of the source of the glyphs or the sprites, anywhere there, and it would use this callback. Transform camera update. I guess it's the most important hook for this forum, because I think it's originated from this forum, basically. transform camera update allows you to basically have a callback when the camera moves. I'll use this example to better understand how this is useful. In this example, you can see the tile edges, which are these X's that you see here. And behind that, you see the terrain properly. This means you're under the terrain because you see stuff that are below the terrain. The part that is the terrain itself from this point of view is transparent, and you see to the next mountain. So this is a bug that existed in MapLibre for a long time after the terrain was added. And we couldn't find a real good solution for this until someone says, hey, why not use this hook or this solution as a hook? And every time the camera moves, check if it's below the terrain. And if it's below the terrain, let's just put it over the terrain so we won't get inside it. And this is basically using this hook. Let's see the code for this. So the example for this hook is elevate camera if inside the terrain, right? You get it transformed, and you need to return where the new camera should be looking at. In the lower part, you see how to add this to the map, basically calling in the map initialization and letting it have the transform camera update. And in this code, you can see that I get the camera position, the first line, and then I calculate the minimum altitude the camera is allowed to be. And if this altitude is below the minimal altitude, then I return a new pitch and zoom. If everything is okay, I return an empty object, and MapLibre just continues on and doesn't change anything in the camera movement. So this was added as part of the React library to interact better with the state. Probably Georgie knows it better than I do, to interact with the state in React and in MapLibre to make sure those are aligned, right?
Yes.
All right, last hook, and I think it's the most complicated one and least used one. So MapLibre use workers, that's not a surprise. It has the main thread. The main thread is doing the rendering. We don't want to interfere the rendering work when we load data. So we offload stuff to the MapLibre workers. For example, when loading a tile, you call load a tile to the worker fetch the tile, they do some processing of the tile for the rendering, and then send the data that is most appropriate to do the rendering. The hook import script in workers is expressive on what it does. It imports a JavaScript code in the workers. The problem with this hook is that you need an internal or intimate knowledge of how the workers code work, what they do, how they do it, and this is problematic to know. It took me fairly long time to really understand how all this works in order to refactor it, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only one right now that knows how this code works. And I saw this problem when I did the refactoring. I tried to kind of make it a bit more that you can use, but it's still problematic and still requires intimate knowledge, and that's why I don't have any example of a working solution with this. But it's there, and you can use it if you want. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about this one?
Sure.
Okay, so you import a script, but when does it get executed? Do you like modify a global context or something like that? Or
so when you import a JavaScript, it's basically running it. If it only declares function that you won't do anything, but obviously below the function, if you call some code, then this code would be executed right after you finish fetching the script and running it.
So it's not like you import a script that is then run as part of MapLibre's workflow on that worker. It's just completely separate.
The worker are running some code. It has their context in the worker. And when you import the script, you can reach out to those internal structures and global stuff. that are in the world. I don't know if it's global, but fairly global in the worker thread.
You provide like a callback or something, or
The import is a way to say this script that is there is loaded, and basically everything afterwards is your responsibility. It's very similar to how the RTL, the right to left plugin, is working in MapLibre. It's extremely specific, the RTL plugin, but it's the same concept. You call an import script, you say where the script is, it goes to the worker, and then it loads it into the workers.
I guess you have some documentation of those global state that you're exposing, so that
it's not good enough. The documentation. That's why it's probably not in use, because you really need to understand, and we haven't really exported an API in the workers because we don't know what's needed. We don't know what the use case is. We're looking into people saying, all right, I need to run this in the workers. Please provide me with this API, and then we can discuss which API is needed. You obviously can run stuff in other workers, but if you want to interact with the MapLibre workers, you'll need this script. But yeah, it's not well documented, obviously. Yeah.
We basically did a fork for this. Is there a way of matching the add protocol with worker script?
Can you better explain the question?
You need to parse a specific tile, and you want to do it on a worker. Can you do it with this?
Good question. Let's see if I can repeat it for the others and if I can understand it better. So you're saying the current implementation of add protocol basically does the function on the main thread. And you're asking if it's possible to do some stuff that are similar to add protocol on the MapLibre workers, right? I don't remember right now, but I think I've tested with all the refactoring that I did, the import script for specifically add protocol in the worker, and I've added the ability to say run the add workers in the run the add protocol in the workers script. So I think this should facilitate for this. If you have an example that you can share that I can upload, that would be great, because I think it's, as Ip said, it's missing some examples in documentation.
Sure.
So to summarize, we've seen all these hooks, the plugins, the add control, the transform request, the custom layer interface, the add protocol, the transform camera update, and the import scripts in workers, which are for you to use and us to keep maintaining. A word about the sponsor. Oliver mentioned this prior. MapLibre project is relying on sponsors. We need those to continue maintaining MapLibre native and MapLibre JLJS. And anyone having want to contribute and sponsor, that'd be great. We'll be extremely happy. And thanks, obviously, to all the sponsors that are sponsoring right now. Yeah.
So my questions regarding the maintenance of these hooks. At least some of them, to my knowledge, they were added because someone need to insert a piece of code somewhere. And some of them, like add protocol, it's pretty straightforward because you know when that request is issued and you just call it instead of the default one. But for things like a transform camera update, it's actually not that easy because it's probably a Mapbox legacy code issue. The camera object or the transform class in there, that's the equivalent to DeckJL's viewport class, but DeckJL viewport is immutable. And the transform in MapLibre is constantly being updated. And there isn't, to my knowledge, in that code base, there isn't any restriction on who or when you can issue a mutation to that transform. And this came up in the PR like 2 months ago, where someone started questioning, what does this hook do, and can I do something different here? Like how do you, as a maintainer of the code base, prevent code from degrading from there? Because now you're adding globe view from the other projection, custom projection in the future. If you, we shouldn't look at Mapbox code base, but if you look at how they implemented, they basically inserted a lot of hacky code in different stages of their rendering, where they try to hijack what the transform object is doing and change how it's doing its projection. And that will become a big issue when you support more and more view modes.
So can you try to
my
clarify the
is,
question?
what is the strategy to keep these hooks working as people start adding more features?
So I'll repeat the question. So you're saying, how do we keep maintaining these hooks and making sure they're working as we add more feature and add more hooks, right? Well, it's a general, software problem, right? I don't think we have a good solution for that. Our solution basically is around testing. We make sure that every piece of code that enters or try to is covered with tests. Every new issue that is fixed comes with a test that represents this bug and make sure that this bug won't return in the future. It doesn't mean that it would, the hooks would work flawlessly for everything, right? But at least if you have a working app or a working app that is using something the way it's using, it would continue to work. And that's, I think, the best kind of effort that we can do around this issue. Fair? Most of the examples, if not all of the examples that are presented here in this session, are from the docs site. We make a lot of effort making sure the docs are up to date, are well written, are informative, have good examples. But as anything is, it's not perfect, and we'd be happy to get contribution or questions around stuff that are not clear. And in general, for stuff that you might need, stuff that other people might need, we're very welcoming in terms of contribution. And we're making an effort to really close pull requests in a timely manner. I think that's probably my main focus when I'm maintaining, is really to be responsive to other contributor and making their life as easy as possible to start contributing.